McLaren, which has been dominating the recent races, is now in the spotlight for a controversial reason: the famous mini-DRS. That's right, the Woking team may have found a loophole in the rules. Imagine this: a rear wing that flexes at high speed, creating an effect similar to the DRS, even when the system is not activated. Sounds like magic, right? Well, that's exactly what the FIA is investigating after the Azerbaijan GP. In this video, we're going to dive deep into this controversy. We'll understand how this alleged mini-DRS works, why it gives McLaren such an advantage, and whether it's really legal or if we're facing one of the biggest technical controversies in F1 in recent years. Has McLaren found the secret formula, or is it about to have its innovation banned? And if you're a fan of F1 and want to stay on top of all the controversies and news in the sport, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Before diving into the controversy, let's understand what this so-called mini-DRS is. First, a quick refresher. Conventional DRS is that flap on the rear wing that opens in certain parts of the track, reducing drag and increasing speed. But what about McLaren's mini-DRS? Well, here's where it gets interesting. In footage from the Azerbaijan GP, you can clearly see McLaren's rear wing flexing at high speed. It's not a full opening like the normal DRS, but a subtle deformation at the outer edges of the upper flap. This creates a small gap between the wing elements, even when DRS isn't activated. The result? A constant drag reduction on the straights without pressing any button. It's as if McLaren has a DRS always on, just in miniature. Genius, right? But now you're probably asking, how has no one thought of this before? Well, they probably have, but McLaren seems to be the first to implement it so effectively. And that leads us to the next point. The advantages of this mini-DRS are huge, guys. First, we have the constant drag reduction. This means McLaren's car can reach higher speeds on the straights, even without DRS activated. We saw this clearly in Azerbaijan, where Oscar Piastri managed to keep Charles Leclerc behind, even with the Ferrari using DRS. But that's not all. And here's the brilliance of McLaren. They've managed to create a system that passes the FIA's static tests, but behaves differently when the car is in motion. It's a masterpiece of engineering that shows why F1 is the pinnacle of automotive technology. Now imagine all the teams rushing to their wind tunnels trying to replicate this. It's the F1 arms race in full swing, folks, but not everything is rosy, and that's where we get to the crucial point of this story. The big question is this legal? Well, it's complicated. The FIA's rules on aerodynamic flexibility are flexible, let's say. The regulations state that all aerodynamic components must be rigidly fixed and immobile. But how do you define rigid, right? McLaren passed all of the FIA's static tests. The car was approved, stamped, and cleared to race. But here's the problem. Static tests don't replicate the real forces acting on the car at high speed. This is where we enter the famous gray area of F1 regulations. McLaren will argue that their design is within the rules since it passes the official tests. Rivals will claim that the spirit of the regulations is being violated. And the FIA? Well, they're in a tough spot. They just released a statement saying they're reviewing additional data and evidence from the Azerbaijan GP. The problem is that mid-season rule changes are always controversial. Remember Ferrari in 2019? Yeah, it could happen again. So, what do you think? Is McLaren cheating or just innovating? It's a fine line in F1, where the boundary between genius and illegality is often defined by millimeters. Now that we understand what's happening, let's see how the Paddock is reacting to this technological bombshell from McLaren. The FIA, as I mentioned, is on the fence. They said they're closely monitoring the bodywork flexibility in all cars. Translation: they're watching McLaren, but they don't want to accuse anyone yet. But the rivals? Oh, they're not happy at all. Red Bull, the reigning champions, is especially bothered. Christian Horner, the team boss, has already dropped hints saying that certain gray areas of the regulations need to be clarified. You don't have to be a genius to know he's talking about McLaren, right? Ferrari has also joined the fray. They argue that if McLaren's wing is visibly moving, it violates the spirit of the rules. But hey, who hasn't interpreted the regulations a little, right, Red Bull? And here's the crucial point. If the FIA decides McLaren's mini-DRS is illegal, what happens? Will they have to change the design mid-season? That could cost precious points in the championship. Now let's talk numbers. McLaren has been on a meteoric rise. Remember when they were struggling in the midfield? Well, now they're leading the Constructors' Championship. The mini-DRS might be one of the key factors in this turnaround. In Baku, we saw Oscar Piastri hold off Charles Leclerc for several laps, even with the Ferrari right behind him using DRS. This shows just how powerful this innovation is. And it's not just McLaren eyeing this technology. I'm sure that right now, all the teams are rushing to their aerodynamics departments, trying to replicate or even improve on McLaren's concept. But what if the FIA decides to ban the mini-DRS? This could completely change the course of the championship. McLaren would lose their advantage, and we could see Red Bull and Ferrari back in the title fight. It's a delicate situation. F1 has always been about innovation, but also about a level playing field. How do you balance these two aspects? That's the challenge the FIA faces right now. And we can't forget about the impact this has on the drivers. Just imagine the confidence Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri must feel knowing they have this aerodynamic advantage. It could make all the difference in wheel-to-wheel battles, especially on circuits with long straights. Maybe McLaren's innovation will inspire other teams to start thinking outside the box, leading to even more exciting developments throughout the season. So, to recap, McLaren has developed a mini-DRS that flexes the rear wing at high speeds. This gives a significant speed advantage on the straights. Is it legal? Technically, yes, but it's in a regulatory gray area. The FIA is investigating and could take action. The result of this investigation could change the course of the championship. What's coming next? Well, the FIA has three options. Do nothing and let McLaren keep using the system. Change the rules for next season. Force an immediate change, potentially altering the balance of power in F1. Whatever the outcome, one thing is for sure. F1 remains the pinnacle of automotive engineering. This is where the brightest minds in the sport push the boundaries of what's possible. And you, what do you think will happen? Will McLaren keep their advantage, or will we see another twist in this season? Leave your opinion in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video and want to stay updated on all the controversies and technical analyses in F1, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way, you won't miss any news from this crazy world of Formula One. See you in the next video.